This is the examination of the hidden human condition.
You're listening to the Hidden Killers Podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
Retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer is joining us. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger and his defense and the many things, statements, accusations that have been thrown out by Ann Taylor in the last handful of weeks. We think the DNA might have been planted. Let's dismiss this because the standard of proof required for an indictment wasn't met. A lot of things being thrown out, seeing what sticks. We are still, we're not that far away from a proposed court date if we do hit the one in October. What are we going to see between now and then? Is there more that is going to pop out here to continue and try and sway potential jurors in Moscow?
Well, I think the number one thing we're going to see is a motion for continuance. And I think that will just help alleviate a lot of the media hype about this October date. We still see that date bantered about, and I just don't believe that date is going to happen. I think that we're going to see definitely a motion for continuance. I also look for the searches to also be questioned. Specifically the searches at 1122 King Road. I will be interested to see where they're going with the training records, who they're going to be calling into question in terms of the law enforcement officers participated, and what particular reasons they're going to call their veracity or their workmanship into question. Is it going to be because they didn't receive enough training? Is it going to be because there's a Giglio issue that we don't know about? So right now it's been very nebulous, but I think we're going to see some more specificity in terms of each officer and what they're going to call into question.
What could the effects of that be if they start to call those things into question? And are you saying they're going to call those into question prior to this actually going to trial, more so like in a public venue, and let the public kind of make their calls on the characters of these individuals?
No, I think these will be in the form of suppression hearings.
Okay. Where
they're actually going to say, okay, we want, I'm just throwing out an example, the knife sheath suppressed because it wasn't, found, or the person who found it, it was really planted by that person. They're going to call into question that sort of action, and then they're going to say, they're going to try to bring up actions perhaps of that individual in the past, that they were involved in something that involved not being truthful about finding something. We saw this, as you might recall, in the O.J. Simpson case, where Mark Furman found the glove. And all of that became unimportant, the fact that he found the glove, because they had tapes of him using, verbiage that was horrible regarding ethnic slurs. And that became the focus, that he was a bigot and that him finding the glove couldn't have really happened in any way. It didn't fit, right?
Yes.
So that's the type of thing I'm talking about, where they extrapolate something from how these officers acted or their training or something in the past. And then they're going to try to show that what they either found or an interview they conducted is tainted because of past actions.
How difficult is that for them to do? It worked, obviously, with Mark Furman, but if you look at the bigger context of it, Mark Furman was auditioning for a play, and that's where the audio came into play, because it was literally lines he was reading for a role. But when looked in out of context, yes, it made him sound like a horrible bigot. This is not Mark Furman. This is not O.J. Simpson, obviously. So to paint a picture of officers in that sort of way, I could see one going, well, let's just do it like, they kind of did with O.J. and they did to Mark Furman. Is that an attainable goal to reach? Or could this end up just making them look utterly ridiculous in trying to go down that road?
Well, the defense will throw out everything they possibly can, Tony. And we've already seen it already. And we're going to continue to see it because as an agent, as a prosecutor, you know that when you have the goods, when you have the facts, when you have a very strong case, which is the case here, the defense has nothing else to hold on to other than to try to compromise the investigation itself. And that's what they're going to try to show, that it was somehow compromised because there's bad officers, there's DNA that, was just touch DNA. That part still kills me, that people, use touch DNA like a dirty word. It's your skin cells sloughing off and it's the secretions. It doesn't make it any less yours.
Yeah.
And I always find it interesting. Well, a police officer touched him, got his DNA, and then touched the snap. Well, where's that officer's DNA?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing. But again, to your point, is the defense doesn't mind being made look, to make these arguments, if you will, that don't hold water. They're going to keep throwing them out there, I believe, to try to taint the investigation.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Brueski.